I don't know, but get it out. Ugh. And I'm grossed out. Jagger. And tonight's our Loki episode 2 recap before we dive into episode 3 tomorrow. But first, the news. The, the nerd news. What is Oh my gosh, I thought you might have just overdosed on ocean water or something. Good grief. Oh, sad face. Oh, okay. Yeah, it seems like it. Anyway, into the news. Harry Styles is rumored to appear in Marvel's Eternals after an interview with Salma Hayek where she stated she was walking around with Harry recently. Those who don't remember, rumors of Harry Styles could be portraying Star Fox in the Eternals movie. Those started circulating in the internet as early as November 2019. So we'll see how that plays out. Yeah, it was a lot of people's fan cast for a while, and then like actual rumors started leaking, and Harry was like, "Oh, I can't talk about it yet," and he kind of teased it a little bit. Right. Yeah, I'm thinking it might be. All right. Yeah. Yeah. What a hell of a way to spend your retirement. Yeah. 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 I think if it's not, I think if it's not directly in the MCU, it's like at least MCU adjacent, similar to how Venom is. Yeah, I agree. Next, we have a new report stating that Wesley Snipes and Hiroyuki Sanada have joined the cast of John Wick 4. Just beefing up that cast. Like it's gonna be a Yeah, it really is. They didn't say his name. Yeah, I mean IGN's always been known to kind of lag behind. Um, yeah, yeah, they're I think they're trying to remain relevant with the scoops and whatnot. And I think they're just failing horribly. Let's see. In recent rumors, Chameleon is said to be the villain of the Craven the Hunter solo film, proposing which proposes that Sony will be focusing on the more troubled anti-hero aspect of Craven, much like they did with Venom and what they seem to be doing with Morbius as well. Yeah, which I like because it's kind of similar to what I wanted DC to do when they did Joker. I wanted them to take that same style of film with Joker and do it with other like Batman or DC villains, like do like a Lex Luthor growing up story or a Mr. Freeze kind of story. That'd have been cool. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Yep. Yeah. 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 He is a really good. He's a really good Hulk. I love it. Like him in the comics is great, and his storyline is amazing. Set images from the upcoming Flash movie have revealed the first looks of Sasha Calle's Supergirl and Michael Keaton reprising his role as Bruce Wayne. I'm very excited about that because Michael Keaton is by far one of my favorite Bruce Waynes. Yeah, I was sitting there looking at it, and I saw the white hair and the look and like the pea coat that he was wearing. I was like, all right, where's Terry? Come on, Terry, where are you? They don't love us though. That's the problem. And that's the sad thing. It's like they're gonna do what's gonna make them money, but they don't realize that doing a Batman Beyond movie would make them so much money.
Really?
Oh
Also,
my gosh.
we may just have to redo literally everything.
What do you mean? Just everything in DC?
I just looked at chat right now, and my mic was completely off.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. How do you feel about it? You want to move? You want to move forward, or do you want to just you want to just run through everything again?
Well, we can. I mean, if they heard mine, then I'll keep going. So I'll keep going, and then you can go back and read your 2 pieces of news that you miss.
Okay. Yeah.
I
Because
guess.
because given that they also missed the entire intro.
Okay. Well.
Anime dub over it. Okay,
We're,
cool.
We're
cool.
we hit the facepalm early today, Xander.
I know. I'm
We hit
sorry.
the facepalm early. Okay,
I
so
know.
I'm gonna breeze through mine. Recent
Okay.
press conference. Head of Marvel Studios Kevin Feige allegedly stated that the notion of exploring the past, present, and future of the MCU is certainly in the cards for all of their characters, which drives home the idea of more prequel-esque movies similar to Black Widow.
I'm excited for that, honestly.
I'd like to see something with some of the other side characters. Like I'd like to see a Hawkeye film, like an early age Hawkeye film, or like the formation of Shield kind of deal. Like pick up. With Nick Fury.
Agents of Shield didn't do it for you?
Don't you dare speak that trash to me. Pick up with Nick Fury directly after Captain Marvel, and him forming Shield as what it is.
Yeah.
Like meeting Maria
it
Hill.
Would be nice, especially since there was that talk about potentially looking at Isaiah Bradley, the Patriot.
Yep.
That would be pretty cool. So those of you guys that sadly didn't hear my previous news, I'm gonna breeze through these real quick. So Tyrese Gibson, who is set to play Simon Stroud in the new Morbius movie, recently stated in an interview saying that Morbius is in fact in the MCU. If you guys don't know, Simon Stroud, he is a former CIA agent turned New York City cop. So he has a handle with Morbius in the comics, but also other characters such as Manwolf, the son of J. Jonah Jameson. Next up, we got rumors that Park Seo-joon from the award-winning movie Parasite is supposedly joining the cast of The Marvels. I personally think that this could point to Amadeus Cho, son of Helen Cho, who we last saw in Age of Ultron. So that could be a big thing. Let's see here. Do you want to take this one about James Gunn, and then I'll take the last one?
Sure. Director James Gunn recently confirmed that The Suicide Squad, the new film that comes out in July, does take place within the DC Extended Universe, quoting that Bloodsport, played by Idris Elba, is in prison for putting Superman in the ICU with a kryptonite bullet. But I don't know which Superman it is because I don't cast the next Superman.
Yep. That was his quote.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think that's alluding to the idea of the other Superman that people are talking about.
I guess if they're gonna go with what's in the works now, would be Michael B. Jordan, right?
Was that confirmed? I can't remember.
I mean, the project is still in the works, but I don't think Michael B. Jordan wants to do it anymore.
Yeah. Especially like with all the like the hubbub with previous DC works and stuff like that. I don't know.
DC's in such a bad place right now.
Yeah. And the last little bit of news, last minute news that I caught was the new Transformers movie title was announced. It has been announced to be Transformers Rise of the Beasts, which excites me because I am slightly younger and my first introduction into Transformers was actually Beast Wars. So I'm super excited about that.
Can we just note that this is Transformers 7? There are 7 of these films and they're still being made.
I mean, it's probably at this point on par with Fast and Furious.
Fast 9, Cars in Space.
That comes out this week too.
Yeah, it does. It does.
You gonna watch it?
No.
It's weird because I see all the trailers and there's no villain.
No, the villain is never mind.
Got him! I got him, guys.
Turn your mic back off. Turn it back off. Nope. Done. We're done.
All right. On that note,
let's move into Loki episode 2.
Yeah, so we're gonna hit that spoiler alert. So if you haven't seen Loki episode 2 yet, this is your one and final warning. Turn away now if you haven't seen it. If you don't care about spoilers, jump on in. We got Loki episode 2, and it comes in a pretty big way at the end. But let's move through. Let's do like a quick little recap of how it goes. So it opens up at the Renaissance Fair, right?
Yes, the Loki variant that they've been, or the variant that they've been hunting, whom they've been claiming to be a Loki variant, has basically ambushed a bunch of TVA agents at the Renaissance Fair, stolen another time charge, and doesn't use it this time. Like in another time they've.
This time, what was notable was instead of just pruning that timeline, they actually kidnapped one of the TVA agents.
Yeah, they kidnap a TVA agent and they basically lure more people from the TVA there. So then they cut back to the TVA. They start going over the next mission with Loki, and we kind of get a nice little peek into like what this world is that they've been doing. So they give us little tiny snippets of what other Loki variants there are. There was one that kind of looked like a mutated tank from Left 4 Dead, which I thought was really funny. Loki gets to explain like the differences in his powers and whatnot. So like they're saying like, oh well, duplication and what was the other one? Like projection.
Duplication and projection.
Yeah, they're two different things. And
I thought it was kind of fun to see Loki kind of nerd out about his abilities.
Yeah, it was nice to see him kind of be like, well, actually, it's different because I do this and I can do this. What you're saying is the same thing. It's very different. And he like gives an actual like scientific explanation. And Mobius is just like, oh wow, didn't know that.
He's like, oh okay, yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah.
All throughout, we're also given a nice little bit with Mobius and Renslayer, and we get more close-ups of Ast, who, you know, I mean, everyone's saying it, I'm saying it. Ast is Kang. We're gonna see Jonathan Majors at some point. I claim it. Even though Jonathan Majors has come out saying that he has no idea what we're talking about.
Yep. Mephisto.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Yep.
But no, I mean, what they're teasing it a lot.
Yeah, they are. Well, they did the same thing with Mephisto, or Nightmare, or whoever.
Yeah.
WandaVision did the same thing to us, and we got no answers. So I'm thinking the TV shows are essentially giving us like little snippets, like making us thirsty, and the movies are gonna try and quench our thirst.
Okay.
Which would make sense to me.
So Mephisto in Multiverse of Madness, Kang in Quantumania. Got it.
Yep. Yep.
But also during that scene, it was notable that Renslayer was mentioning other analysts involved.
Yep.
And the way that plays about, and this Mobius, he has like a glass of whiskey or something like that, and he places it on the table, and he is like, man, you have so many rings on the table. He's like, yeah, they're from you. Or Renslayer was like, yeah, they're from you. He's like, what? No. And then he grabs a coaster. And so it had me thinking, what if there are other variants of Mobius working for the TVA that he doesn't know about?
There might be.
This could potentially be one of those things where, one of the little tidbits of the TVA that they don't tell everyone else, like only the higher ups know, and that's what they're kind of covering up.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's definitely a possibility.
So I don't know. That's just one of those moments where I was like, wait a second. Also, this is coming off the heels of watching Tenet, and I rewatched Loki episode 2 today. So I saw that and I was like, wait a minute, hold on. Maybe there's another version of Mobius that
there are a lot of little things that they added into this episode. Like the whole library scene is a lot of like little things. Like when they're talking about the apocalypse level events and they're doing the research, you get to see him go over like the actual port of Ragnarok. The close up of Loki's face and seeing the pain that he felt after reading that. Our Loki, like the Loki that we grew to know, didn't even have that kind of look after Ragnarok. Like he was the I'm just glad I survived kind of face, but like Loki reading about the extinction of his people, essentially, you could see and almost feel that pain. It was kind of
well,
hefty.
I mean, you have to keep in mind the Loki in Ragnarok, he was like in the thick of it. He was experiencing everything, so he was like on one hand, he's like yeah, Asgard's gone, but he's like that Loki understood why.
Yeah,
it had to be. Whereas this Loki is just like, oh shit, it happened, and everyone's gone.
Yeah,
you know.
Exactly.
Another thing about that library scene was one thing that I caught today actually was it's a blink and you'll miss it moment, but in the pages that they're flipping through, you see the name Sylvie Laufey Dottir.
Yep.
Which means daughter of Laufey, which
Laufey's daughter.
Yeah, which Loki is Laufey's son.
Yeah.
So just fun little tidbits.
Yeah, nice little like peeks into like the other comic versions of Loki as well.
Yeah. I like the fact that we see a more fun side of Loki. More specifically the Pompeii scene, where he's just kind of.
I loved the Pompeii scene.
Like I spoke to Ernell and Devin about this last week. Like just after I think we were playing was it Knockout City, and we started talking about this, and Ernell was actually on the fence about this version of Loki. He's like, it's kind of jarring to see Loki kind of exuberant and kind of zany, but I like it. I think I feel like this might potentially be like the version of Loki that Thor kind of grew up with and kind of saw as a brother. Which I mean goes to show, because like I mean, based on what we had seen up till this point, when you know Thor's like really, I mean obviously it is his brother, of course anyone would be sad, but at the same time you're just like, yeah, he's your brother, but he also like tried to take over New York City. He tried to kill you on multiple occasions, blah blah blah, like all this other stuff. So it's kind of like, I mean, in a sense, I'd be like, well, good riddance at some point. But seeing this side of Loki kind of puts in perspective, you know, the fun side of Loki, like I said.
Yeah, because Loki is above all else, he's the god of mischief, but he's also a trickster. And tricksters are very lighthearted and fun and very funny at the same time. They cause a lot of chaos, but they're also very sneaky, and they're jokesters. Like that's just how they are.
Yeah. So we see the more mischievous side of the god of mischief.
Exactly.
And
but,
I like that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm moving on from there.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I was gonna say I like the little nod to his traditional horned helmet. When he releases the goats and he's like, "Be free, my horned friends."
Yeah. That was funny. But the Pompeii scene is particularly important because that's when they figure out that this Loki variant is hiding out in apocalypse level events, and they need to find one that's right. And apparently this Loki variant has been leaving them clues as to where to find it, and that happens to be in the year 2050 at a big box store called Roxcart.
Mm-hmm. Which I like that too, because that's another like kind of like Easter egg to the Roxxon Corporation in the comics.
Yep. Because if you've read Spider-Man 2099, Roxcart is a massive cover up. Like it's a shell corporation for the Roxxon Corp, which supposedly went out of business after a disaster level event occurred, which made their stock prices tank, and they became an undercover arms dealer.
Yep.
But while in Roxcart, they launch a mission to go rescue C20, who is the hunter that got captured. They finally find C20, and she's sitting on the floor, like rocking back and forth, like she's seen some weird shit. Keep saying it's real, it's real. I'm thinking that she's talking about the multiverse of madness. Like she's seen the dark multiverse essentially by hopping through these different timelines with this other Loki. I'm thinking she's seen like the negative zone and the place where like Mephisto and Nightmare and all them are said to exist. Like they're locked away there, and it stands to reason that the TVA basically said, "Oh, that place is a myth. That place is a legend. We don't talk about that place because it's essentially meant to be a prison. Because if they talk about it, then someone's gonna be like, oh, well, what if we go there?" And then they accidentally let out Mephisto. I'm thinking that might be, and this is my speculation, this is my fan theory. I'm thinking that this Loki variant, whom we now get revealed to who it is at this Roxcart store, I think this whole thing was they were meant to split the sacred timeline into this multiverse to break down the walls of this dark realm where like Dormammu, Mephisto, Nightmare, all these really, really bad creatures are, and find their way to the timekeepers to basically ruin time. Which will lead
us
into...
you think this variant? Do you think this variant is inherently bad?
Yes.
Okay.
I do.
Okay. So I'm actually glad you took that one, because when I saw C20 just going like it's real, I was like, what the fuck are they talking about?
Yeah, I'm thinking it's like the Phantom Zone essentially is what she saw.
So I think like after you explained your theory on that, I'm kind of starting to think that maybe instead of multiversal level, maybe this variant of Loki showed C20 other timelines that still exist, that still kind of instead of there being one singular sacred timeline, showing just the other timelines that run not necessarily a multiverse just yet, but the other timelines. And she's like, oh man, it's real, there's actually other timelines, like stuff like that, and like basically
that could make sense
going
as well.
Kind of like having like an existential crisis, because you know, for all case and purpose, the TVA, their whole purpose since creation was to serve the timekeepers and keep the sacred timeline in check. But when you realize, so basically like it was explained that there's a sacred timeline and there's branches from the sacred timeline that they have to keep in check. But what if there's the sacred timeline, but then there's this other timeline completely separate from, and now that I'm explaining it out loud, maybe that it could be multiverse. There's a completely other timeline that's separate from the sacred timeline, quote unquote.
I mean, you can essentially take it like the Community theory and call it the darkest timeline. So we have like we live in the sacred timeline. There's the darkest timeline, which is basically where everything is worse. Yeah. So like they have like an anti-TVA where instead of it being the timekeepers, you have like the triumvirate
Time Twisters.
Time Twisters, or I was gonna say the triumvirate of evil, where it's like Dormammu, Mephisto, Nightmare, the three big multiversal big bads that essentially rule over it, and they're basically trapped there in what they think is actual time. So I mean, it could be a play on both of our theories.
Yeah. So all during this time, Loki is actually trying to track down this other variant who Loki kind of like split off with B-15, I believe. And they it was funny how they came across this variant, because this variant actually has the ability to remotely control other people and speak through them.
Yeah, I think Loki called it possession.
Yeah,
Like possession transfer or something like that.
So this variant was possessing one of the people at the rocks cart, and they were just sitting in the freaking plant section. The whole dialogue, it had me chuckle for a little bit.
It was
there.
funny, yeah.
Because it's like, what are you doing? And you're like, I'm buying some plants during a hurricane. And keep in mind, this is like apocalypse level hurricane, and their only response was hurricane sale. Like,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it made total sense at the time.
I mean, I was just like, what the? So B-15 walks up, and then she's then possessed, and then they have some exchange with Loki, and then throughout the whole course of it, she keeps switching and ends up switching into like this big Brock dude that just tries to beat the shit out of Loki, and there's a moment where he's just like, I would never treat me this way. So that's where, and we'll get to it in a second. That's where I was like, maybe this variant isn't necessarily a variant per se. And I'll get to that here in a second, because the variant is revealed to be a female version, but also blonde. And if you're a fan of the comic books, if you know the comic books, there is a character that is heavily tied to Loki, known as Sylvie Hutchinson, aka the Enchantress. Not the Enchantress that we saw briefly in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. way back when. Which, I know, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Oh boy. But no, so in a nutshell, this Enchantress was... they believed to be from Asgard at some point, and then Loki thought it would be a funny idea to imbue them with power, just to kind of like play like the ultimate joke in a way. So I am assuming, this is my fan theory, I think this is in fact Sylvie Hutchinson, the Enchantress, but they're kind of changing it up a bit so that this Sylvie Hutchinson is actually technically a version of him, but like just like it's weird because like they're combining two completely different things. I think they could either go the route where it is a variant and it's just the like if he were a female, like born as a female, or I think that it could potentially be like his daughter from like a different timeline.
Could be. My kind of theory branching off of that is going back to the whole dual timelines, where we have like the sacred timeline and the darkest timeline. What if this is the Loki from the darkest timeline that discovered that the two timelines exist running parallel to each other? And oh my god, I just had a realization. I think we might be right, because if you look at how the TVA tracks these prune branches, it starts with the sacred timeline, and then there's this red line at the top.
Yeah.
What if that's the other timeline, and these branches coming off the sacred timeline, if they hit that timeline, that creates a door from that timeline to this timeline.
Yeah. That was my thought exactly.
So I'm thinking that red line might actually be like the dark timeline, and I think this Loki might be from that timeline, and she's trying to create bridges to either get back or open the sacred timeline to people and other like things, like entities from the dark timeline. So
I like that theory. My running theory was that, so your running theory is that this variant, I'm gonna go ahead and just call her Sylvie, because also if you've seen online, there are images of the credits in other languages, and
Mhm.
Sophia DiMartino's character is listed as Sylvie. So that kind
Right.
of confirms her identity in a
Mhm.
sense. Um, but my thinking is that this variant is not inherently evil, but knows something about the TVA that everyone else doesn't. And the TVA is actually inherently evil. And also, by the way, this variant bombs the sacred timeline
Yes.
with all the reset charges that she's been collecting.
Yep.
So I think by bombing the sacred timeline, this creates a huge stir with the timekeepers, causing them
Mhm.
to come out of hiding essentially and expose them. And the reason I say expose them is because, so what do we know about the time chargers up until this point? Time charges, they prune the timeline, right? They
Right.
completely reset the timeline.
Yeah.
So then explain to me how, if you place a whole bunch of these reset charges all across the sacred timeline, wouldn't, by that understanding, wouldn't that just wipe out the entire sacred timeline? Why is it branching out now?
I'm thinking it's because those charges are meant to stop the time breach from happening. But what I think it does is it blows holes. If you put it in a fixed point in time,
Mm-hmm.
my theory with that is like you put a time charge in a fixed point in time, like say the Battle of New York. That
Okay.
then blows a hole in that time point, which allows multiple things to happen. So if you prune an event back that was supposed to happen, that event can now change at that point.
Okay.
And I think that's where the branches are created. So like
Okay.
if she sent these time charges to these fixed points in time, that would essentially create alternate universes, because that's how most timelines are explained. We've learned that from the Flash. We've learned that from a little bit with the MCU and Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, there are fixed points in time, and there are fixed moments and fixed items in time of these timelines, or
Right.
we're focusing on the sacred timeline. So if something from those fixed points changes, it creates a branch timeline. Very similar to how when Barry Allen ran back in time and changed his mother and stopped his mother from dying, it created
Mm-hmm.
Flashpoint, which is an entirely
Right.
new timeline branched off from our own. So
Okay.
I'm thinking that what Sylvie did was basically create her own like cluster of flashpoints
Okay.
in order to break the sacred timeline and create a new multiversal war. Whether it's
Okay.
by her own doing or she's being influenced by somebody else, maybe Kang,
Mm.
or influenced by somebody from this other timeline that we're thinking of. I mean, we don't know if this other like major timeline exists or not. A lot of signs are pointing to it, but again, it's still early in the show. We're only on episode 2, episode 3
Yeah.
tomorrow, which will probably give us some pretty big reveals. It's usually about when Marvel starts dropping the big bombs on us.
Yeah. So I'm trying to see. So the reason I was so hell bent on getting to this point soon, because I mentioned Morbius during the news,
Mm-hmm.
and we spoke, and I was probably muted during this part, but we spoke about how Tyrese Gibson said that Morbius does in fact take place in the MCU. We've had the Sony Pictures executive producer, or whoever, executive whatever, state that there is a plan to tie things in with the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
See, the Morbius release date is January of 2022.
Yeah,
It looks
22.
like.
Yes.
Yeah, it looks like 22. So we have Spider-Man coming out in what, December of this year?
December of this year.
So, and from everything that we've heard, Spider-Man deals heavily with multiversal type stuff.
Yes.
My guess is that this kickstarts everything tying into each other in some fashion, which is why we see Adrian Toomes at the end of the Morbius trailer.
Right. I'm guessing that the MCU is kind of trying to do what the CW Arrowverse did with Crisis on Infinite Earths,
Right.
where they explained that all of the shows that are DC related, like Smallville, Supergirl, Black Lightning, they're all linked. All that stuff happened, but now we have this crisis, and we condensed it from the multiverse into Earth Prime. So I
Mhm.
think they're kind of trying to do that sort of storyline, but throughout a series of films.
You're right.
So my guess is that by the end of Loki, it's going to lead us into Spider-Man No Way Home, which
Mhm.
I think Spider-Man No Way Home is going to occur either at the same time or overlap with the events of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Okay.
So I think Spider-Man's going to give us our teaser into that movie, and those movies are going to kind of like overlap, where it's like either
Mhm.
like the middle to end point of Spider-Man is going to overlap with a certain major event in Multiverse of Madness. And it's going to give us
Okay.
like one big cohesive story. And then they're going to start tying up those loose ends with Quantumania.
Okay.
And then by that point, they'll have enough stuff released where they can announce whatever their big wrap-up film is.
Mhm.
Because they're saying that Fantastic Four is going to be the last film in Phase 4.
Yeah.
They did announce that yesterday.
Which, oh, hold up. it just clicked in my head. So we have all this multiverse madness happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if this opens a door to the negative zone?
Right.
And that's why they introduced the Fantastic Four, because maybe there's this crazy thing that happens with the negative zone, and they're like, we have no idea how the fuck we're gonna do this shit. And then Reed Richards pops up out of nowhere. He's like, I think I have an idea.
Yeah, basically. I mean, that's probably how they're going to have to introduce them. Because, I mean, if they do Fantastic Four and kind of wrap things up with them, and that's going to lead into Phase 5, because they've already said Phase 5 is going to be a thing.
Yep.
We're not even a quarter way through Phase 4 yet.
Yeah.
I think Phase 5 is going to be another, like, I think they're not going to waste as much time this go around. I think Phase 5 is going to hit us with that next big storyline,
Yeah.
culminating in another Avengers film, which will either end the MCU or splinter it so that they can do whatever they want afterwards.
Do you think they're working on the same, like, similar format as the Infinity Saga, where it had like all these phases, and then but throughout the entirety of it, it was basically the entire Infinity Saga, because we had glimpses of Thanos and stuff like that, blah blah blah. Like, the first Avengers film was the actual first indication that Thanos was a thing, right?
Yes, it was the ending credit scene where they basically said, "Okay, we've garnered enough interest. We're doing the Infinity Saga." Is as how they announced it at the end of Avengers 1.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're doing that again, but on a
Okay.
smaller scale. I don't think they're gonna make it as drawn out and intricate as the Infinity Saga was, because the Infinity Saga is a big deal. I mean, that
Right.
spawned I don't know how many different other sub-comic lines afterwards.
Right.
Because I mean, you had all the stuff leading up to it, all the Guardians of the Galaxy stuff that led into an Infinity War. Then you had the Infinity Gauntlet storyline that then turned into the Infinity Crusade
Mm-hmm.
afterwards. I mean, they didn't give us a whole lot in the movies to be able to continue that, but they have enough
Right.
other major storylines that they can do in Marvel that if they wanted to set up something like, I don't know, say like Fear itself, if they wanted to do that as a major storyline across a bunch of different movies, they could do that. I mean, you create enough mad multiverse, like mad timelines, you can eventually make them collapse into one dark timeline, which would be Fear itself.
Right.
So I mean, the potential's
So
there.
I'm thinking you might be right with the smaller scale idea. I think potentially after either Quantumania, or because I'm trying to think when Fantastic Four would potentially release in the grand scheme of
2023.
things. 2023?
2023, because Wakanda Forever comes out summer of 2023,
Okay.
right? Or is that 2022?
I'd have to look it up. Let's see here. Actually, I'm just gonna go ahead and see if Fantastic Four already has a release date.
I think they have a date reserved.
Okay, so they're speculating midsummer of 2023 for Fantastic Four. So
Yeah.
that would potentially be wouldn't that be similar to the length of Phase 1 leading up to the
kind
Avengers?
of. Kind of.
Well, actually no,
See,
because that was technically, I mean, time-wise that was technically what, 4 years?
Okay, so
Because Iron Man came out in
2008.
yeah, and then the
And the
Avengers
first
came out in
Avengers-
2012.
Correct.
Okay.
So that's 4 years.
But they were also
Where's
much
the-
more sporadic movies.
Yes, because Iron Man happened in 2008, and so did the Incredible Hulk, and they loosely connected those two. Then they did Iron Man 2 in 2010, and they did Thor and Captain America: The First Avenger in 2011. So yeah,
Okay.
you may be right, because then the next Avengers film came out in 2015. That was 3 years later. Then our next
maybe we
technical
won't-
Avengers film was another year later.
Because maybe we won't see our like big bad like the next this next saga. We probably won't see the next Thanos of this until Fantastic Four. I'm assuming if they follow the same formula. But at the same
Maybe.
time, I feel like that might be shooting themselves in the foot if they try and do it the same way, because then we're expecting that.
Right. So I'm thinking what they're going to end up doing is, let me go back to Phase 4 map. So
Unless
I think
there
they're
is
gonna,
no big bad villain. Maybe
So I think-
maybe they're just leading up to Secret Wars.
So I'm thinking they're either going to be leading up to Secret Wars, or there's going to be a big bad that creates Secret Wars that they're going to start teasing after No Way Home and Doctor Strange.
Hmm.
Because those two movies are for sure connected, and we know they have
Mhm.
connections to shows that we've seen this year. So
Yep.
that's definitely like a Phase 1. I'm thinking like if we're equating it to the Infinity Saga, Phase 1 wraps up after Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Okay.
Phase 2 wraps up with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. And then you have Phase 3 that'll wrap up with Fantastic Four, which would lead
Yeah,
us
because
to the end of the Infinity Saga, essentially.
Yeah, because even though it's in a shorter amount of time, there's still pretty much the same amount of content, basically. Or
Right.
probably actually even more content.
There's
within
more
a shorter amount
content
of time.
because you've got to think with Phase 1, with our technical Phase 1, we have WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter
Mhm.
Soldier, Loki, What If, Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, Spider-Man: No Way Home, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Miss Marvel, and Hawkeye. All that
within a year.
content, all before Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness happens. Then after that, we go into Thor: Love and Thunder, Black Panther 2, The Marvels, Moon Knight, She-Hulk, Secret Invasion, and then Quantumania at the start of blockbuster season in 2023. And then we get Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. They've announced the Secret Invasion show, Ironheart, Armor Wars, I Am Groot. And then
I
there's
forgot
other
about
stuff,
all that shit. Wow.
and they haven't announced all of their titles yet. So
Yeah.
they're saying Fantastic Four is going to be the last one, but there's also could be stuff that they announce between Quantumania and Fantastic Four that they can't announce because it'll spoil what they're doing in this current phase.
Yeah. Shit.
So I think they're basically taking that like 27 film X amount of years Infinity Saga and condensing it into the next 4 years. So they streamlined the process because they don't have that like choppy start where Iron Man started as an indie film and then it just grew into this universe. They have the
Right.
universe already. They don't have to do all that world building. They can just do, okay, story. Here are the characters you love. Here's some new characters. Here's a show that's going to explain this. You don't have to watch it, but it'll make more sense if you do. And bam, here's your big bad a year later. Fans
That makes
will
sense.
love
That
it
checks out.
because
That checks
because
out.
fans like us, we watch all this stuff. We watch and we study it all, and we look for these
Mm-hmm.
fan theories, and we're gonna love it. And then they're also gonna present it to the point where, if you watch all the movies, you'll still get it, but you won't get it as much as the people who watched all the shows. You know?
Right.
I mean, that's just my theory.
Yeah, that checks out with me. Let's see. Yeah, I think we talked this into the ground.
Yeah, I think we covered it all. That plus our speculations on the future. I think tomorrow we'll get a couple big bombshells.
I think so too. Considering this is the halfway mark, because it's only 6 series.
6 episode series.
Or six episode series. So yeah, I think we're in for some big plot points tomorrow.
Yes,
it's gonna be really difficult to stay away from spoilers. It's gonna be very difficult to not watch it at work. I'm gonna try my best. But yeah, I guess only time will tell. And we don't have to wait but we don't have to wait too much longer.
Right.
So
for all you diehard fans, you only have to wait 4 hours.
That's fair. That's fair. I wish I didn't have to work tomorrow. I would so wait up.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think that about wraps up tonight's episode. A little botched intro on my part, and I apologize for that. For those of you still watching, thank you for letting me know that my microphone was in fact muted. I will assure you it will never happen again. Hopefully it might happen again. Who knows? It's me. So Jagger, you got some stuff going on Thursday, right?
Yes. The first episode of Cursed Tapes is on Thursday night at 8 p.m. right here on the Box Network. I will be joined by my great friend Emac. We'll be talking about the new chapter of Dead by Daylight, the Resident Evil chapter. We'll also be talking about like what we speculate can happen in the game in the future, the ups and downs, the bugs, some possible builds because he has way more experience playing the chapter than I do. We'll be going over all that, and then I'll also be giving a roadmap for what we'll be covering on Cursed Tapes in the future.
And much like the sacred timeline being bombed, we are expanding.
Yes.
I love it. We are expanding. So we got Jagger's show on Thursday, and then next Monday, I have the first episode of Jam Sessions, the music talk show that we have here. I'm going to be joined by Mike Garrow of Savage Hands, who's also a close friend of mine, as well as Ryan Kirby of Fit for a King. So don't miss out on that. We're going to be talking all things music, pretty much covering their influences when they started out, and then going over some things, and things that they see in the music industry, music trends, and then what we've been jamming to for the past week or so. But yeah, that's exciting stuff. We got more stuff on the horizon. Then following shortly after that, in the near future, we have Otaku's Anonymous coming up in a few weeks, I think.
July 7th?
July 7th is the first episode?
Wednesday, July 7th, I believe, is the first episode. So that week will be packed.
Yeah. We're gonna have a lot of fun.
That week after 4th of July will be packed because we'll have a potential jam sessions that Monday.
We'll see. Well, I'm still working out the kinks with guests. For right now, I think jam sessions may end up being maybe a once to twice a month kind of thing.
Okay.
So we'll play it by ear. But
so yeah, we'll have Comic Relief on Tuesday, and then Otaku's Anonymous on Wednesday, and then Curse Tapes on Thursday, and then Family Game Night with Xander on Friday. Yeah.
Do some more Halo.
A whole lot of stuff going on over here with the Box fam.
And then we'll take a nice little break towards the end of July when I come to visit.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do a live episode, just the two of us.
Yeah, maybe. I'm thinking we probably can. You'll have to follow our socials to know when that's going to be.
Exactly. So follow us on social media.
You can find us here on YouTube. You can find us here on YouTube. You can also find us on Instagram, the Box Network. So yeah, take us out, Xander.
All right. So thank you for joining us today, guys. If you're watching us live, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to be doing the after show. I'm going to try and be a little bit more proactive and actually get a thumbnail made for next week's episode tonight. So join me for that. We can still talk some more Loki if you want, or we could probably jump into some games after some Photoshop. We'll see. But thank you for joining us. If you're watching on the recording on YouTube, I apologize again for the beginning where my mic was muted. I promise you, I won't let it happen to next week. Can't make any promises for the week after. But yeah, tune in next week for more news and our continued coverage of Loki. It seems like there are going to be some big things happening as far as the MCU coming from Loki. If there are any other topics that you want to see us cover here on the box, please leave a suggestion in the comments down below. And if you enjoy what we're doing here and you want to support us, please like, share, and subscribe. Both Jagger and I, we've mentioned before that we stream on Twitch. Our Twitch channels will be linked in the description down below. And I hope you guys have a great night. Stay nerdy, my friends. Bye-bye.
Bye.